Today, a wake up call calls for stricter security after the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Security can't be good enough, it has to be airtight. And on Saturday, it wasn't. Thanks for being here with us this morning. Good to see you all. I'm Vanessa Broussard. An armed man breaching security. He didn't get far, but he got close enough. Too close for comfort. We'll break it all down today with Jim Paff of the Conservative Caucus. Jim, so good to see you. The president has been a target too many times. Yes, the Secret Service acted quickly on Saturday, but how did he get that close in the first place? That's the question everyone wants to know. What's your take on the security issue from Saturday night?
Well, my judgment, yes, security acted quickly and protected him, but the overall security situation is frankly very poor. Everyone I've talked to who was there, every thing that I've heard from others, what I know about the building itself, having been to dozens of events in that very ballroom, this was not a well secured event. And primarily because you see that the person who perpetrated this was never checked for anything in a hotel situation where the place that he can walk through to get toward this event venue is a very wide open space, and I hear no reports that there was any deep security there. And lastly, the security was right up against the ballroom itself. But this is a crazy situation, and it's a Secret Service failure, and the president can do what he wants. And I'm sure, in fact, I believe that the current Secret Service head is a nice person and has a good career. But this is the kind of failure that you get massive change with. I don't know how you can sustain that. The president will make that decision, but this just cannot happen. This is definitely one of the most targeted presidents in American history. And if we keep allowing this to happen, one of these times someone could very well be successful. We cannot sustain that in this country.
You're absolutely right. And we talked about, you just mentioned the head of Secret Service, that's Sean Corran. He was with President Trump in Butler. He then named him as the top head of Secret Service. But you're right. Look, we went through it in Butler, same situation. The venue itself, to get inside the perimeter, you had to go through Max. But this was at the farm, the Butler farm grounds. And so wide open space, trees, buildings. And so we saw the shooter, he didn't go through the gated area. He didn't have to. That's all wide open. So he climbed a building, a rooftop from just outside, and was able to shoot at the president. Thank God, as we all know, he turned his head in the nick of time. But how close was that?
Listen.
I went to.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say, listen, this situation on Saturday was more well secured than Butler, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe the security that the Secret Service gave on Saturday was intentional. In other words, intentionally meant from intention to secure the president. I think Butler was. That was a setup. That was a more obvious security breach than this one. I mean, there were some very bad flub ups on Saturday, but that building in Butler was not in the least covered, and that is the most obvious place to cover anywhere on those grounds. And I suspect in my mind that there was malintention for that security breach. This one, I don't think had malintention. It was just incredibly poorly considered.
And you mentioned President Trump, the most targeted president. He's the most powerful man in the world, the most targeted man in the world. And we do not have any room for any small inkling of any type of not paying attention. You look at this hotel. The hotel's wide open to the public, right? People are coming in and out. You would think that the hotel itself, Secret Service, local law enforcement, the feds would make sure that, hey, look, we need to make sure, let us have a list of everyone who's staying there for the weekend, and we need to go through all of the people. Did they do that? I'm not sure. There's also reports, Jim, that he came down the stairwell instead of the elevator. Anyone with a brain knows that when you are in a building, that if there's a fire or any type of emergency situation, what do you not take? You don't take the elevator, you take the stairwells. It's an exit, right? And so there's signs on every floor, use an exit in case the stairwell, in case of an emergency. Well, so that's what reports are saying that he did. And I'm just having a hard time believing that there was not any type of security at the doors of these stairwells, and then from the stairwell to the ballroom. So he had to travel a distance from the stairwell to the ballroom fully armed, and no one noticed.
Well, this is a very interesting venue to go to. If you've ever been to it, it's at the lowest level of anywhere on the hotel facility. The reason that he didn't take the elevator and took the stairwells is because, apparently, at least, is because his plan was to take whatever he was carrying, his gun that he put together in, into rooms, and the level that he was on has other meeting rooms of a much smaller nature. And it was apparently in one of those rooms that he went into to assemble it, and then went charging through from there, trying to get to the stairs to get down into the venue. I think there are a couple elevators that do go down to the venue, but there's no way he could have gotten into the elevator with a gun that he had put together. So his plan was to, on the floor above the venue, to put it together and then to run down the stairs and try to get into the venue itself. And those elevators, the few that go down there, were covered. But that's a hard place to get down into. If anyone that's ever been there, there's an escalator that goes down there, and there are narrow stairs that go down there, and then a couple elevators. It's always seemed to me like a fire marshal hazard if you're going to try to get 2,500 people out of there. But anyway, that was his only way to get there. He did have a plan, and it's one that should never have been possible if that place had been covered like it should have been. And
And
one other thing, when you have the president at an event, you have to close down the whole facility, in the sense that, I should say more accurately, the Secret Service has to take control of the whole facility. Like, you could run a hotel, I guess, but you've got to cordon off the hotel portion from any opportunity to get into the middle of the place. And I just think we're learning that this facility is just unmanageable for a Secret Service level event in the future.
for this magnitude, for the president, the vice president, the administration, everyone. What if something happened to the president? The vice president was sitting at the same table. You had the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, in the room, third in line to the president. And then you had all of the other administration there as well. So all of his successors were in the same room. Like, this is just insane to me. And I just don't know where we go from here, because how many times are we going to have to sit here, Jim, and say, what went wrong in Butler? What went wrong in Florida? How did this guy, how was he even able to set up this whole little area to shoot the president when he's playing golf? Luckily, a Secret Service agent noticed it before, that was too late. There he is right there. He's been sentenced and is in jail. And now we have what happened on Saturday night. How many times are we going to sit here and say, what went wrong? We should never have to be sitting here in this situation again, especially with this magnitude, with the entire administration in one room. We've got to do better. And security has to be tighter than at the ballroom door. These people still have to walk in and out. That entire block should have been secured, locked down, showing badges to get in, showing ID. People are saying that we're there. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of the same people, that they just flashed their ticket and walked right on in. They just glanced at it and said, okay, you're good. I mean, this isn't, there's some loopholes that they need to figure out. And I don't know if it's at the top. I don't know if it's the guys and women on the ground, but somewhere in the Secret Service agency, there is a lack of planning, of paying attention, because we can't just keep having this with President Trump. He's a sitting duck.
Well, I wouldn't say that this particular event was a DEI problem, but DEI culture also feeds into this. In other words, we have changed the way that we perceive people's effort, as whether you succeeded or not, whether you accomplished or not. Two, how do you feel about it? Do you deserve something because of the color of your skin or your gender or whatever? Like, we've taken the whole thing of you either succeeded or you didn't. The binary is gone. And that attitude, and I'm sure there are a lot of great Secret Service agents, so I don't want to put them all down. But we
Absolutely.
do have a culture where some people can accept second best. And you cannot do that with the Secret Service. But I'll tell you, even more importantly, there are a lot of events that the only person in the line of succession is the president himself. And that's obviously extremely important all by itself. But when you've got an event where everybody but one, the Senate pro tem, in the line of succession, were sitting in the same room, that steps it up a huge part. You remember that television series Designated Survivor? I mean, what was that about? You had an entire cabinet and everybody in succession except for the designated survivor. Maybe the Senate pro tem was the designated survivor that night. I don't know that for sure. I haven't heard about it. But the designated survivor would be in a very secure location just in case something bad happened, and then something bad happened. This was almost that kind of event, because this guy was saying that he wasn't just going to go after the president. He was going after the entire cabinet. It blows my mind as you think about it more and more that we allowed it to get to this position. But it also blows my mind that how is it that we're in a day and age where one of the most vaunted security services in all of human history, the Secret Service, which has in the past been quite perfect. I mean, how did they let this one get this bad? I'm just astounded. The Reagan shooting, which was at the same location, was a Secret Service failure. There's no doubt about it. But the magnitude of the problem then was even less than this one, not just because it's Donald Trump, but because you had almost everybody in the line of succession there. This is a huge loss. Someone's head has to roll, and it's got to be replaced with someone who will absolutely have an anal retentive attitude towards what we do to secure this president, because how do you avert 3 major disasters? And in fact, I think there are a total of about 6 or 7 known attempts on the president's life, or at least known designed ones. And every president has some threat against them. But this is pretty profound. You have to go all the way back to Gerald Ford to have multiple actual attempts that took place. So this is a serious issue. We better fix it quick.
Very quick, because like you said earlier, we may not have a successful outcome. Unfortunately, that's just the way we have to think, because there's too many crazies out there. But the irony of where it happened too, and who was in the room outside of the administration. The media, the press, the people who for a decade now have called him Hitler, who have, run him down, found fault with anything. He's a fascist, he's this, he's that. And they're brainwashing these liberals to believe that Trump is, a king. Let's have no king's protests. I mean, they're just feeding they're fueling the fire. And so they're sitting in the room during all of this. And I want to show our viewers this. This is from Jimmy Kimmel, who disgusts me, by the way. Jimmy Kimmel said this just the night before. The night before on his show. Take a look at what he had to say.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Not funny at all. And then so Melania comes out yesterday and she makes a statement about it. Very rare for the First Lady to come out and say something about this. This was not funny. Then the President of the United States comes out defending her, attacking Jimmy Kimmel, telling ABC and Disney, fire him. He's got to go. This isn't the first time we've had this encounter with Jimmy Kimmel. He is making it seem like it's okay. Go out and murder the president. Let her be a glowing widow. But Jimmy Kimmel comes back out last night with another joke. He didn't back down. He didn't apologize. He didn't say, okay, maybe I was out of line. No, Jim, he comes out and says, I wasn't talking about murder. I was talking about their age difference. Come on. Who believes that? I don't.
Well, there's no reason to believe it. Actually, It's a pattern with Jimmy Kimmel. He did the very same thing with the Charlie Kirk thing. He was applauding the death of Charlie Kirk, and then he came out to give his apology with the, oh, no, that's not what I meant at all. It's just comedy. Don't you get it? It's just comedy. It's not comedy. There's a lot of funny comedy that pushes the edge, pushes the envelope, that doesn't go that far. Jim Gaffigan, I was thinking about this with him. Jim Gaffigan, who's a hilarious comedian who truly dislikes Donald Trump and is of the left. I can't even imagine Jim Gaffigan being so stupid as to make such a joke like that. I can think of a lot of comedians who wouldn't. Of course, there are others who would, but Jimmy Kimmel does need to be taken off the air. I don't want to take away his First Amendment rights. He's welcome to go try to build a following on social media all he wants. Roll up a podcast. You've got a little bit of a reputation, but no one even cares a little bit about what Jimmy Kimmel says, except the people who are amongst the myriad of small videos that I've seen in the last couple of days of people saying, dang it, they missed him again. I mean, this attitude exists in our country. It is it's a dangerous attitude. It's held by leftists almost solely, except for the Lincoln Project so-called Republican guys. I mean, you do have the TDS Republican wing, but that's much smaller than this group of leftists that act violent in every way. Like in every way, the left is violent. You will get crude and crass things said on the right from time to time. That's generally a human problem. You are not getting violent the way that you do. And don't bring up January 6th, because January 6th it has a lot of problems to it. And no one ever points out the fact that there were literally tens of thousands of people there who weren't even close to doing anything that was bad. They were patriotically and peacefully protesting. Democrats don't patriotically and peacefully protest. They buy violence. They spend millions of dollars to roll up violence whenever they need or feel they need to make a political point. Jimmy Kimmel's statement related to Melania Trump was about assassination. He can lie about it all he wants. We know what he meant by it. And it was intentionally from his heart. He can tell us all day long he meant something different. He's just being a politician. And he's as bad or worse than any of them. In fact, worse in my opinion.
Absolutely he is. Disney, ABC, now it's time. If there's any time, now is the time to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel, but they won't. That's how big corporations are. They feed this as well. And so it just goes down the line and into the homes of the American people and into the crazies who want people like Jimmy Kimmel. But as we start to wrap up here, Jim, I also want to say, Saturday night when President Trump went to the press briefing room, and as he walked out after addressing the nation and also the press, I hear the press saying, glad you're okay, glad you're okay. No, they're not. Are they? Probably not, because they fuel this as well. They are constantly calling him names, constantly finding fault with him, constantly putting out all of this stuff for years since he came down the golden escalator. And then now we have yet another assassination attempt, failed, praise the Lord. And they're going to say, glad you're okay. Really? Because you're going to get on air tomorrow and find fault with every single thing he does and call him a king and call him a fascist and call him racist and all the things that you do. So save your I'm glad you're okay for a rainy day, because they're not glad he's okay.
Well, I will say in the moment, I think everyone was shocked, and there might have been a broader sentiment at that moment
of heart from them.
That everyone was worried about what might have happened because they were all exposed to it. But what we have seen, sadly, since 9/11, like 9/11 should have been, and initially was, one of the most unifying things that we had seen in our country up to that point, except that the Maoist Communist Democrat Party is out to overthrow the American Republic. They're working on it every single day. Their desire is to take out the liberty that we were granted, that our founding fathers fought for, and that they were willing to give this limited form of government that allows the people to live their lives rather than the government living their lives. They want to live people's lives, because the only way that their ideology can succeed is when they can utilize the power of the sword of government. The definition of government is legal force. And the reason the founding fathers wanted to restrain it so much is because they understood that principle, and they needed that force, that legal force, to be used only for what it was meant to be used for, against criminal behavior, and particularly violent criminal behavior, and against other countries against whom we would need to defend ourselves. And that was the extent of the sword, roughly, that the founding fathers felt was important. So, but we're not in that place right now with Democrats. We have far too many Republicans that allow that to get haywire. But the Democrat Party is a violent party. It is a Maoist communist party. It is not an American party. And the Democrat media, which is the vast majority of media, are their mouthpieces. They are their propaganda machine. And they hate Donald Trump because they have the same insanity that Democrats have. And we're going to be fighting this for some time. And we need to take courage ourselves to stay in that battle, to pray for our country, and to determine that we'll do the things that we're required to do as citizens, to act as citizens, and to promote good.
You're absolutely right. The fight continues, and we'll continue to pray for the president. I know he has some public events at the end of this week as well. And so it's just, one of those things where I wish he would stay home, but he's not going to. And so that's his personality, Jim. He's not going to let this stop him.
That's
and
true.
That's why we love him. So good to have you on the show today, Jim. Thanks for stopping by, as always.
Great to see you, Vanessa, as always.
Now to an exclusive, a real-life account of power and influence behind closed doors with the Trudeau's. Jeff Brown, author of Inside Trudeau's Kitchen, is with us today. Jeff, good to have you on, to have you here to talk about your story. I'm glad you're here. I booked you because I want people to know about what you've gone through, about your book that's out. And in your book, you detail everything that you've gone through. So first, I wanted to introduce you to our audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met Sophie Trudeau and Justin Trudeau.
Gotcha. I never formally met Justin. I'm a Canadian. I was born in the 60s. I came from challenging peripheral Jewish family environment. High school, I used to watch TV and saw this sort of famous criminal lawyer named Eddie Greenspan on TV. And I said, I'm going to work with that guy one day. And I sort of had a vision of possibility that I was going to sort of start with law, criminal trial law, and then study psychology, humanistic psychology, and then start writing. So I just went through my hard-working process and eventually reached a stage where I began to write. My first book was called Soul Shaping, A Journey of Self-Creation. I'm primarily a self-help spiritual writer, so this is a shocking experience. In 2015, a friend of mine went to a place called the Omega Center in Rhinebeck, New York, a holistic healing center, workshop place. And Sophie Trudeau was doing a workshop. Justin wasn't prime minister yet, not till the autumn of 2015. My friend liked Sophie, wanted to give her some of my books. I published 6 or 7 books by that stage, I think, and she had some with her. I said, no, don't do this. My intuition said, don't. I'm not into chasing the famous people. We're building on a grassroots level on social media. I like it right where it is. I'd worked really hard, Vanessa, to reach the stage where I was inside of a writing zone, not distracted by all kinds of things. I'd left Toronto. I'd moved to a place called Rockwood. It was still and silent, and the words were just beautiful. They were coming alive. But she pushed, and I was tired, and I said, fine. So there's sort of this moment where she gave these books to Sophie Trudeau. Didn't think much about it after that. He became prime minister in the autumn of 2015, and then in February 2017, Sophie Trudeau posted a quote from my first, I write sort of popular quotes. She posted a quote from my first quotes book called Ascending with Both Feet on the Ground. I'm kind of a grounded spirituality guy, although this story is not always very grounded, for sure. And I had a thought in my mind. I read this really beautiful old American book called Brother of the Third Degree, where there were sort of, relatively smart people whispering benevolent wisdoms in the ears of power. a year or two earlier, I think. And I just love the idea of doing that. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just connect through and volunteer my writing services. I wasn't looking for a job. My publishing business was growing. My teaching school was growing at that time. Everything was flowing. But I thought, I'll do something for them, because they were talking about gender equality. They were talking about emotional healing. They were talking about everything I've been writing about. I was shocked that this could even be happening in a political realm. I mean, normally these were not things anybody talked about. So I projected onto them all kinds of good things, because that's what we do in our world, especially on the internet. And we're certainly conditioned to do that, and wrote my way through. I had this sort of moment when it was almost like, if you imagine sort of Judd Hirsch on your shoulder as your symbolic, intuitive, saying, don't do this. Don't put this through to these people. And I ignored him. I ignored whatever the intuitive voice was that said, don't do this. And I pushed the email through. She wrote back fairly quickly, had something that she needed to be written already waiting there. Her email, one of the first emails was, it's in the book, but it was sort of, it had a kind of a intimate or somewhat flirtatious quality to it. So this kind of where we began, me feeling like, why did I do this? This reflects back to me that maybe I shouldn't have done this. And yet a part of me that really wanted to bring this message through to a larger audience in the political realm. And that's where we started.
So then what happens there? You receive the email, and then the correspondence takes place. Take me from that point on.
So then there's a lot of emails back and forth. There's sort of like something I wrote through that she said she had read to Justin, and he resonated with it, and he cried. And, I think it might have been a quote from a Joseph Campbell book. We just had a lot of emails. I was sharing ideas. Some things would come through me. I would send them through to her. I just saw her as another way in which to bring a message. It was just another forum. There were so many forums happening around me at that time, and this was just another one of them. And I think it was in the fall of 2017, she asked me to come to Ottawa. She said she wanted to meet me. And she was starting a video series. She had done one with an author named Rupi Kaur, who kind of writes poetry out of Ontario in Canada. And she had brought her to the house to shoot a video. So she, continued to interact, and it was very clear that she wanted me to come to the house, which was called Rideau Cottage. They were not staying in the conventional prime ministerial home for various reasons. They were staying in another one. And so we, interacted. And then April of 2018, we booked a time for me to go to the house and have a lunch with her. I thought there would be other people there. There were not other people there. I drove from Toronto to Ottawa. It was very emotional for me. I felt, I was projecting. I mean, it's a crazy thing that we live in a world where we project all these things on people we don't know, right? But I was projecting all kinds of things. I was conditioned to believe all kinds of things. And it just felt so pure and clean, which, as it turns out, was quite the opposite of that. And it was almost like I felt like all my family members, my dead family members, were with me. It was like we'd finally made it. Our peripheral family, my words were being embraced in the halls of power. That's how I felt. But at the same time, I was feeling uncomfortable. There had been some flirtatious emails. There was some excerpt she had sent me just before I left from a Rilke book. That I just was not entirely sure what I was stepping into. I guess that's the best way to put it. And then on that morning, I arrived at the house, and I was alone with Sophie Trudeau for 45 to 60 minutes.
And take us to that moment. I know a lot of this is in your book. So take us through that moment. You have this meeting with her. You're in the house with her. You're behind closed doors with her. What changed? What did you notice about that meeting?
That's quite a meeting. Well, I mean, so right when I sort of pulled up, I think she was outside, Vanessa, and I was holding, if you can imagine, I'm sort of holding my papers, because I'm such a Virgo. I want to make sure I can look at them and remember the words. I want to make my family and my country proud by the time we reach the video. So she's there, and her eyes are very alight, like very soulful and connective. Let's put it that way. And I came in the house. She should have showed me around a little bit. Oh, that's a funny picture. She showed me around a little bit, and it just began. Let's say it began very quickly. Was a very intense. It was like I was with a woman who was living in a gilded cage. She began to share very intimate details. One example was she had a piece of passion fruit in her hand, and she began talking very quickly. It was almost a little manic feeling, and sort of moving the passion fruit down her arms and her body. And she was saying, she's talking about Justin. Why when he comes home from work, can't he eat this passion fruit off of my body? Why must he go in the other room and read science fiction? So this is one example of what was going on. And I just tried to sort of be like grounded uncle and manage a situation and remember the words. I wasn't there to hold the space for her frustrations. I mean, I'm a civilian. I should never have known these things. And the book really reveals, look what's happened to me as a result of these things being shared with me and my trying to get away later from the connection. So she shared things like that. She talked about how she couldn't get through my love story and uncommon bond all the way through it because I don't have anything like that. She talked about her affair. She talked about her meeting him and why didn't he call? And then when they finally went on a date, him kind of weeping on the date and crying that she was the one. All kinds of stuff like that. It's detailed pretty. I'm a pretty good documentarian. It's in the book, but it was rapid fire. I mean, you have to understand. I'm a Canadian, so America, you're much more organized and oriented around things coming to the surface. We are not. Our media suppresses all kinds of things. And they're not allowed really, unless they're the situation with Justin's dad and Margaret Trudeau, it was sort of became so public, it had to go public. But in our country, the things that our media knows, especially now that our media is basically mainstream media is paid for by the government, kept in business by the government, they don't talk about any of these things. So it was, I've been around. It's not like I haven't been in a kitchen and people share crazy things with me, of course, but this was pretty wild. Given that the visual optics in the media world that I had encountered and all of us had encountered were a basically very happy couple and a very happy family. And the gap between the optics and the reality was just so devastatingly wide that it made it it was one of the many things that made it a very uncomfortable 45 to 60 minutes. I was quite relieved when she brought out the lunch so that there was an opportunity for us to just calm down and stop talking and eat. And then when the team finally came, there were two people from the PMO. Sophie was unusual because normally Canadian, sort of we call leading lady was the term they developed for her, because normally the wife of the prime minister she's not really a member of the government. She's not that involved. She was involved with the PMO, the prime minister's office. One of the women who came, she said she had stolen her from another government spot. So this was a very unique situation that I was absolutely not prepared for.
Interesting. And I know all of this is in your book. I know there's a lot more details in your book. I wanted to give just a quick synopsis to our viewers about, a story of influence, pressure, control, all there in your book, a real life experience. What do you want, as we start to wrap up here, Jeff, what do you want people to take away from what's inside your book? What's the message?
Yeah, great. So I would say that there's a quote that kept coming through me as I was writing this book. And the quote was, tyranny always masquerades as benevolence. So I think if there's a message, if I could just bring this insane experience down to one sentence, it's for people to understand always, no matter what's being presented to them, that tyranny pretty much always masquerades as benevolence. Be careful making the assumption that what you're being presented with is true. It's unbelievably important. that the electorate really knows what's true. And in Canada, it's particularly difficult to find out what's true. The other thing is, I developed a term called techno-terrorism, and I expanded on the term in Urban Dictionary. I think it's important for people to understand that the new surveillance and monitoring methods are so far beyond the old guy in the car driving behind you trying to not be visible. There are so many ways in which we are controlled, contained, surveyed, and monitored now. And if they read the book, most of the book is not about me and Sophie Trudeau. My 3 efforts to get away are about, I don't know, the first 60 or 70 pages. The rest of it is really what then happened to me after I tried to get away, and I refused to silence myself. I mean, this is really a story of a whistleblower who just wouldn't shut up and still won't shut up. And, to really understand that we need to create structures in our society, the only way we're going to change anything in this divide and conquer consciousness where these very powerful power brokers are manipulating consciousness so that where there's no center anymore, where you're either on this side or you're on that side, and nobody can have lunch together anymore if they're not on the same side. And this is totally to their benefit. It's why there's a communist, globalist, jihadist coup taking root in Canada now, because there's no center anymore. And I think we have to fight our way to the center. And I think one of the most important things is that we have to find a way to support and to develop systems that protect whistleblowers. The whistleblower is the most important member of society if we're really, really talking about genuine transformation. But we have to protect them. And to this point, as I've learned, we haven't.
Absolutely. For people who want to check out your book, because this is a must read, where can they go to buy your book?
So in Trudeau's Kitchen, you showed it. It's available on Amazon. We've had difficulties on Amazon Canada. Hit #1 in new release Kindle in December. Suddenly price doubled and the paperback pre-order button was removed. It came out as an audio in early February, started to move, was completely removed from the system. I had to fight to get it back up. And then it really started to move. It hit #1 in Canadian history, and I think some other key category, not new release, old categories in Amazon Canada in some point in March. And all of a sudden, immediately, it became the date of availability went from you could order it and get it tomorrow to weeks later. And then Mark Carney announced an April 13th by-election date to try to get his majority government. And you pretty much couldn't get the book until just after the by-elections, just to give you a feeling for what's happening with this book. So it's available now. He has the majority government, so you can find it on Amazon's. Bookstores have been a problem. I've had to fight in that system. The price was gone. The images were wrong. All kinds of, I'm a publisher, a small publisher. I've never had problems like this before. So you may have to push a little hard to get it into a bookstore or library, but I think the fact that they're doing this tells you that it's worth it.
Yes, well, I want everyone to go check it out. In Trudeau's Kitchen, available online. Jeff Brown, so good to have you on. Thanks for stopping by and telling your story. And I can't wait to read your book because I know there's some good insight in there. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
When we come back, medical freedom and the right to try, we talk to All Family Pharmacy about your medical rights without government influence. That's when we come back.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
All right, let's bring in Michael Kinsler now with All Family Pharmacy, one of our great friends at LINDELLTV here, to talk about digging into a specific law that was passed. The Right to Try Act of 2018 allows terminally ill patients, people who may run out of options, to have other options. Michael, good to see you again this morning. Tell us about the Right to Try.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me on. Right to try, it's just based on medical freedom, giving the ability to an individual who has nothing left to try it, right? That's just a stepping stone into what we're looking at. Is they're starting with the terminally ill, and then we kind of want to push that down further down the ladder to individuals who aren't terminally ill but are suffering from everyday illnesses, everyday diseases, and giving them the right to try other medications that may be used off label where there is specific data proving that it helps them. Right? We always lean on ivermectin on our end where it helped people during COVID. Now the whole swing is on cancer, right? The CIA document providing information that cancer and tumors feed on the same pathways that anti-parasitic drugs shut down, basically eliminating a parasite. And so we're pushing forward that Medical Freedom Act to show that people should have the ability to right to try, whether they're terminally ill or perfectly healthy, or they're fighting some crazy disease. And there's a medication that's cheap. It's a repurposed drug that's on the market already. And it's giving them that ability to fight that disease on top of whatever else they're taking, as long as it's safe and through a physician.
You're absolutely right. Been down that road with loved ones before. It's hard because you go to the doctor, you go to these facilities, and you want to trust that what they're giving you will help. But then you have, people like us in the MAHA movement who's saying, look, get away. If you're dealing with cancer in particular, we know chemo, we know radiation, but there's other things like ivermectin people are trying. And I can say it here on air today. It's been successful for so many people. And so I think that it's very important. Again, this law was passed, the Right to Try Act of 2018. The MAHA movement has been huge in this. Michael, explain how Bobby Kennedy and the rest of the MAHA movement has helped in the Right to Try.
Yeah, he's pushing things like ivermectin. He's pushing things like methylene blue. Now he's on the forefront of peptides. He's even pushing testosterone for men. A study came out about that even just recently, that men who have low T that are over the age of 60 have a shorter life expectancy than those on TRT, proving that testosterone is only helping men as they get older. It's not hurting them like we thought in the past. Right? It is a medication that obviously can be abused. That's why it has to go through a physician. We have to do the blood work. But he is on the forefront proving that these medications are only helping people. Peptides, for instance, that's the big one right now. They're only helping people. They're not hurting. And there's sufficient data for 12 to 14 out of 19 peptides. There's sufficient data proving that it's helping people with everyday life and it's not hurting them. And there is enough data for somebody like himself and the FDA to push it forward to allow compounding pharmacies to make it and allow doctors to prescribe it safely. If they don't do it, they created the black market, which is what the Biden administration does. And then you have all these people on social media who are drop shipping from China, and they're selling it for $40, $20 a vial, whatever it costs, because it's dirt cheap over there. It's not tested. We don't know what's in it. And people are injecting themselves with God knows what's in it or how much. Right? They're not taking it effectively. They're not taking it safely. There's not a doctor prescribing them, telling them why they should or should not be taking it. And so that's what RFK Jr. is trying to do. He's trying to make it so that the Americans can try peptides, but the only route they can go is if they go through a physician, a licensed doctor, to get a protocol, and then it's compounded by a U.S. pharmacy, a pharmacy that is overlooked by the FDA to make sure that everything they're doing is safe and effective. It'll eliminate the black market. It'll create compounding pharmacies more revenue. It'll bring back independent pharmacies here in America, which is the ideal goal for us.
We know that you have ivermectin that's available to the public. I also know that you have a new collaboration. Peptides are huge right now. So many people are turning to peptides. What can you tell us about All Family Pharmacy and offering peptides to the American people?
Yes. So we've picked a company that manufactures here in the U.S., facility in Miami, as well as one in Texas. And so we vetted out their entire process and everything matches up. So until FDA pushes these peptides forward, we're going to partner up with aminosupport.com so that people can get access to real peptides. These peptides are third-party tested. They go through vigorous testing at the labs. We use third-party labs so that we know everything is good to go. So it is aminosupport.com. I believe there's Lindell10 you can use for 10% off your order. I'll double check with them, but I'm 99% sure you can still use the Lindell10 to place an order if you want to try the peptides. If you are looking for something that's great, I highly suggest BPC 157. It's a 15 amino acid chain made in the stomach, one of the best anti-inflammatories on the planet. I take it for my shoulders. I threw out my back. I took it. It works. It takes a couple weeks to kick in, but it is probably the most popular peptide on the market right now. And there is significant long-term data. It's been around for decades. It's not something new. It's something that your body creates. So it is an ideal peptide for individuals who are constantly dealing with pain.
I love it because, again, so many people I've heard in conversations just in general with family and friends, people are turning to peptides, which is great. And I love the collaboration that you have making that available to people. So tell us that website one more time and then your website, because your website is the place to go it's a one-stop shop for everything you need. Yeah.
So it's aminosupport.com. And you can use the Lindell10 coupon code, or you can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. We do have a couple FDA approved peptides on our website under the biohacking tab. So there are peptides that are FDA approved. We're just hoping that RFK Jr. pushes more forward so that we can offer them on the pharmacy level, and we can put you in touch with our licensed physicians who are licensed in all 50 states so that they can create a protocol specific to you so that when you're taking one of these peptides, you're taking it in a safe and effective manner. It's only going to help. It's not going to hurt.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that and reiterated that point, because this is specifically for you. You're going to be different than what your neighbor takes and maybe your coworker takes. So All Family Pharmacy will get you on the right track. Allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Use the Lindell10 promo code, peptides, ivermectin, so much more on there. Michael, always a pleasure to have you. Thanks for all you do.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And stay with us. We'll be right back. And in the meantime, if you're on social media, don't forget that you can follow me on all of the platforms. I'm on X, as you know. I'm also on Vocal, which is Mike Lindell's social media platform, Truth Social, President Trump's platform, Instagram, and YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel there. We'll be right back.
Mike Lindell here. The radical left and the deep state aren't just coming for our freedoms, they're coming after our money too. For years, they've been destroying our economy from the inside out with reckless spending, open borders, woke policies that crush our businesses. And now they've left us with an inflation disaster that's wiping out the savings of our hardworking families. They don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. Well, that's not going to happen on my watch. That's why I partner with American Independence Gold. It's a veteran-owned company that's helping patriotic Americans fight back by protecting our savings with real physical gold and silver. And right now, they're giving away up to $15,000 in free silver and a free gold IRA kit. A portion of all the profits go to 9/11 first responders and veterans at the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The deep state can't touch your gold, so visit MikeLindellGold.com or call 844-714-4653 right now. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Take back control. You know, most people think water's just about filtration, but in reality, it's about balance. What gets removed, what gets left behind, and how the water actually behaves once you drink it. Well, many traditional systems focus on one thing, removal. Reverse osmosis, for example, strips water down completely. It may sound ideal, but it removes minerals that our bodies need. The Century Wellness System was designed with a different philosophy. It removes common contaminants like chlorine, fluoride, and PFAS while restoring key minerals like magnesium and improving alkalinity. It also does all this without tanks and without wastewater, and without requiring a complicated installation. It installs in about 15 minutes under your sink, so instead of overcorrecting, it brings your water back into balance. Please visit CenturyH2O.com and use promo code Lindell for 10% off your next purchase.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Let's see how the markets are opening today. Looking at Wall Street from MarketWatch.com, the Dow is up at this hour. The S&P 500, NASDAQ down. What's driving the markets at this time? Middle East tensions, as you know, every single day for the last 2 months, pushing oil prices higher and adding uncertainty, tech weakness, and major earnings week. Be on the lookout for Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta. They're all keeping traders cautious today, so we'll be on the lookout for that as well. In your news to go as you start your day, changing ICE to NICE. A random social media post caught the president's eye. A woman posted that we should change the name ICE to NICE, National Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That way the media has to say NICE agents every day. Well, President Trump loves the idea. He responded, "Great idea, do it." He also has a packed schedule today, taking a look at what he has on the agenda. At 10:25 this morning, he and the First Lady will begin their day with the King and Queen of the United Kingdom. They will have a guest book signing ceremony, then a gift exchange, a bilateral meeting. That's at 11:40 this morning. Then they will join students in exploring the U.S.-UK history through innovation at the White House Tennis Pavilion. Later tonight, they will host a dinner in the White House East Room. For full coverage, you can log on to LINDELLTV.com and the Lindell TV app. And our daily Bible verse of the day comes from the book of John. The Bible says this, "Abide in me as I also abide in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must abide in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you abide in me." And that'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. And we leave you today with sights from Colorado.
When you read one news source, you get one side. When you read two sources, you get an argument. Read 40 sources, and you get the truth. LindellReport.com, the only place you ever need to visit for your news. From LINDELLTV, over 40 trusted outlets in one place. No editorial gatekeepers, no hidden bias. Just the day's news. Balanced, unfiltered, ready when you are. Whether you lean left, right, or straight down the middle, this is where you start your day. One click, one feed, one truth. The decision is yours. LindellReport.com. The news you need, the balance you deserve.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice, speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop